The reason we all are like feeling like in ritualistically the idea that like we're all connected and that there's a super consciousness, blah blah blah, is that in a physical sense that literally is true. You know, we are literally all interacting with like a multi-universal energy, and the connections we feel are those energetic bonds, but we just don't have the science to explain what that even fucking is yet. All right, everybody. What is this? Houston Ensemble 38? Number 38 with Robert Ellis. The man. I was really, really looking forward to this one. We were already talking a bunch of silliness. Let's keep it silly because right before this one, we had another episode that was way more serious. So, Robert, what's going on? Tell us a little about what you're doing, what you've been up to. What is Robert Ellis all about?
Hey guys. I've been. It's been a weird year. I play music and have been doing that in a different capacity for years. But this last year, I've just been at home and I'm not touring. I'm kind of just like retired, like half retired maybe. Um, I don't know. Like I think right now I'm kind of living my best life. Like today I woke up, I played piano for a little bit, and then I had to go to the studio. We're mixing a record that we produced, and I did that for about an hour and a half. Worked on some vocal comps, and then I came home and started building furniture. And yeah, that's basically been my vibe for like
I
the
like
last
it.
year. It's been lovely actually not going on tour.
The touring thing can be fun until it's not, right?
I
Right?
I was exhausted by it. Like
Yeah.
last year, right when all this shit happened, I was like, everyone was panicking, like we're not going to be able to tour anymore. And I've been
Mm-hmm.
doing it for 10 years, so I was very psyched to be at home.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure you guys have experienced this, but like I just have more time to practice and like do real meaningful practice, like seriously shedding, like reading new books and transcribing stuff. Like I just wasn't able to do that while touring all the time. You're in
Mm-hmm.
a
Mm-hmm.
band constantly. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we're touring now because I feel like I can never shed.
Yeah, I mean, but also we are in a sense shedding all the time in different ways,
It's true.
by staying busy.
Yeah.
But I got no complaints about that. But I was thinking with Robert, man, like, because you said you'd been touring 10 years, and I was like, let me think 10 years. And I went back in time 10 years. And I think literally 10 years ago, I saw you act. What is that place? Cactus Records? Was it Cactus
yeah,
Records? Yeah, I saw you there putting on a show, and Cactus Records was promoting it and the whole thing, and there was press there, and then I remember, at that moment I was like, see, it's beginning. I'm like I'm like, that's it. This guy is gonna start touring. That's it.
yeah.
And that was the end of that. And then after that, I feel like I didn't see you for a while, but I kept seeing Mr. Doyle, our good friend Kelly Doyle. Off and on I would see Joffrey, because Joffrey went back in the good old days when he used to play that banjo.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Those are the fun times when we have to just play some gypsy jazz, out there in Manil Park. Talk
That's how
about,
we all met.
yeah,
That's how
yeah,
all of us met. Like I
yeah,
was living just right off the park. There used to be these apartments called Richmont Square,
yeah,
and that was like the first spot I ever moved in Houston. And
yeah.
I
Mm.
would go over to Manil and like just be super out of it and walk around the museum and and I met Joffrey. Joffrey was playing banjo in the park, and
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna bring my guitar over," and we
Yeah.
knew like all the same tunes. Like
Wow.
it's
Yeah.
just they're weird dudes. Like at that
Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
I had just moved to Houston and was just my mind was blown that there were people that liked jazz and bluegrass and
Mm-hmm.
like Western swing and knew all these country tunes and like
Mm-hmm.
they could just hang on anything. And so we would just sit and jam like you know any type of music. And then he was super into like we had a band called I Am Mesmer that was just like a really weird amalgamation of like a bunch of tunes in 11 and 7 and like weird Croatian folk songs that he like adapted. Those dudes had a really cool ear.
Y'all went deep on that real like synthy stuff, like synthy gypsy, like the real shit. And I love that stuff too. There's like lots of polymeter music that they do, and like intense, like intricate melodies, and right. I mean, it's just like
Yeah, but it feels dancey. Like
it's
when you're
dancing.
listening to it, you don't ever think like, "Oh, this is mathy." Like it just
No,
feels like
Mm-hmm.
fun.
yeah,
Like I don't think that those time signatures are weird to them.
no,
So they don't approach them in this way of like, "Oh, we have to count." You know what I mean?
no.
Like it's just like, "Oh, this is just how we did it when we wrote this tune," and everyone like feels
Well, I'll
that
tell
finish.
you what's weird. Like, I don't know if I ever mentioned this, but like, as long as I remember, even when I was a wee lad, like 4 years old, we would have dinner with the other families, and it would be a more traditional Armenian dinner. And then all of a sudden, my dad would bust out the traditional, what's called the kemenche. It's like a violin, but if you play it like this.
Cool.
I don't know if you know what I'm saying.
Mm.
But there's many instruments like that in that region, and but I digress. So they would just bust into music. The dudes would usually play the instruments. The women of the family would just bust into dance, and it was extremely polymeter. Like they just knew the steps. They
Yeah.
weren't like you said, it's like they weren't like counting and shit. They just knew these steps, but I'm like, this shit isn't nine. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
you're like, what? And it would just be, it's just really nuts.
It's only
And
hard when you have to explain it to someone. You know what
exactly,
I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like
exactly.
it's
And the Manil is so cool because, dude, Chad and I, the the pandemic thing hit, we were busking pretty much at Manil,
Uh-huh.
like constantly, because everything was shut down, right? And that place is literally where opportunities happen for some reason, dude.
Yeah.
yeah. It's
It's
like it's the center of town. I mean, like in
yeah,
my mind, when I moved to Houston, it wasn't downtown. Like there wasn't really anything happening downtown. I feel like
mm-hmm,
now there's
Right.
clubs and like places to hang, but definitely that like Montrose, just that like the Manil being at the center of it. I probably lived in 10 different places on that square. You know what I mean? Like in that little 4 block radius, like,
mm-hmm.
and that's where everyone lived until we all couldn't afford it anymore. It was that was just like the scene, and that's why I moved there. Really, somebody took me to Houston on a trip and showed me that museum, and like when we went and looked, that's when I found Richmont Square. I was like, oh, this is the dream life. I can just
Oh.
walk over to this park every day and like
Mm-hmm.
sit at the Rothko.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, for me and everybody else who doesn't know a ton about you, where are you from and how did you get here?
I'm from south of Houston, like Lake Jackson area, just down 288. It's like an
Okay.
hour away, Freeport, Lake Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I was coming up to Houston as a kid because it was like the closest, you know, real city, and I would come up and play weird shows in spring and like I don't know. At that time, we were like booking our own shows, so everything was like at community centers and like off of Rayford and Sawdust or something, you know. But from the time I had a car, I was like coming up to Houston all the time to see music and um, you know, like play weird little gigs. And then when I got to be, I was like 16. I dropped out of high school, and shortly after that, I moved up to Houston. And like I said, I lived right by the Manil, and it was such a weird time. So I like grew up. My mother was a piano teacher, and when I was younger, I had this guitar teacher um, that was at the local music store. And when he left to go tour with a band, when I was in like eighth grade, he was like, "You're the only student of mine that could take over all my lessons. Do you want to start teaching?" So in like eighth grade, I started teaching at this local music store, and it was a good gig. But then when I moved to Houston, I went to Rockin' Robin. That was like, oh, I need a job, and went to Skiles. This guy who owned it at the time was just like, I'm a teacher. Do you need anybody? And he was like, oh my God, we're so slammed, and hired me on the spot. And that was like my first gig there, was teaching at Rockin' Robin, and eventually like Joffrey and Will and all those guys all started working there. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, it's a weird scene, but it all just happened in like the span of a couple months. Um,
I was introduced to the Rock and Robin scene. Are they still around? What's the last
yeah,
you've heard of them? They're still around.
yeah,
Oh, cool,
they're hustling. I think they're selling stuff online, and like,
cool. Okay.
I mean, I follow their Instagram, and they'll post something at least once a week that I'm like, oh God, I want that. That looks so rad.
Mm.
Um,
Sweet.
I think they've got it figured out. You know?
Good.
And another thing for people like myself who don't know all the ins and outs about you, can you maybe describe your music?
Yeah. I've been making records, like we said, for 10 plus years, and I guess I would be in like the Americana folk country genre. Like the early stuff that we made um, in Houston was we started doing this thing called Whiskey Wednesday, where we played a bunch of old classic country covers, and we did this weekly gig at Mango's on Westheimer. We did this weekly gig for a couple of years, and right around that time, I made my first like solo release album, and
Mm.
it was very steeped in like classic country. It also had like some folky Paul Simon elements. And then since then, I kind of have been stuck in that world, I guess. Like those are the people I play with, but I don't know. It's hard to say with your own music. I definitely sing like I'm from Texas, so I think maybe that's the first thing people hear. But I would describe our music as like weird left of center Americana. Like often the
Mm.
people we play with don't have changes in their music. You know, like there's no like you would never have a bridge in an Americana song do like what it would do in an Ellington tune, like go to an unrelated key
Right.
or something. So
Mm.
to me, that's a difference worth noting, but I don't know that people hear it.
Yeah,
You know, like
that's a cool way to describe it.
yeah, it's weird Americana. But it's been difficult because I think that a lot of the people that like that stuff, they can't even put their finger on why they don't like what we're doing.
Mm.
But like when we do like a solo section or something, and Kelly takes a solo, like even though he's seriously ripping and it's incredible, I think most people in that genre are used to hearing like a blues guy rip a minor pentatonic, and there's
Mm-hmm.
something that is like just gutturally more exciting about that to them than what we're doing. so, so
But Kelly can do that stuff though. He can do
yeah,
that
yes,
bluesy, that shreddy blues stuff.
he can. He does the times he does it. I feel like he's being sarcastic to me.
That's the thing. That's the thing. He likes to troll a little
Yeah,
bit. He likes to play that weird stuff.
What
yeah.
does Kelly play? I know Kelly by name, but I don't know anything about him.
He plays electric.
Electric. Okay, cool.
Um,
I know
he's he's
Joffrey
un-
now.
he's unbelievable. I mean, you should. I don't know if he's playing out, but like the dude is a freak. He's like an insanely good country guitar player who can like burn jazz tunes and has a
Mm.
deep harmonic knowledge, and he'll like arrange, standards with all like B bender telly style stuff. But
Oh, cool.
it's cool. He rules.
And are you in Houston right now?
I'm in Fort Worth actually.
You're in Fort
So
Worth.
yeah, I moved here at the beginning of the pandemic because there's a studio here called Nile City that I work at a lot, and basically since the pandemic, I've primarily just been producing other people,
Wow.
and it just made sense. Like the studio's 5 minutes away, and like
Oh,
nobody
sweet.
Cool.
does anything anywhere, so it didn't really matter.
So you are a pure testament that if you put your mind to it, you can drop out of high school, never go to college, and be successful.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, success. Like
Well, success is relative. Well,
yeah, success is relative.
are you having a good time?
I am, yeah. I gotta hustle, like
Yeah.
to make money. But I love. I mean, I get to play music. I don't have like other jobs, so
Mm-hmm.
that's nice, Um, but yeah, you guys know the hustle.
We love it.
Mm-hmm.
We love it.
Enjoy it.
And what is success? Is getting a Grammy success. And what is success? I'm on the Billboard Top 100 or whatever. I don't know, because success can just be looking like following your thing 100%,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's just like in line with everything you love. That's
Mm-hmm.
it. That's
Yeah,
what success really is. People talking about you know any remedial job being, if they want to say any remedial job is more valuable than what we're doing. It's like, I don't know. Are you sure? Are
yeah,
you so sure that you like? And here's the thing, full disclaimer, before I like talk shit a little bit about the remedial jobs. People who have these jobs are very brave, and they're sacrificing a lot. And sometimes truly it's like they need to do that stuff because they have a family, they have things to worry about, and that's it. So it takes a lot of courage to do that stuff, and I'm not decking those people, but I'm decking the system, because who wants to be in an hour of traffic to work, then you sit on your behind for like 8 hours, then you have an hour, you're like loving the 10-minute bathroom break you got, where you're just like letting it all out, and you're on your phone. That's like your freedom time,
You're
right?
pedaling the little foot workout thing under your desk.
You're pedaling the footwork guy, you're squeezing the stress ball, and then you have an hour ride home where you plop on your couch and you turn on the TV, and you're like, thank God I'm in front of my hypnotization machine right now, so I can forget about everything.
Woo.
yeah. I
You know,
mean,
I,
what I think what it boils down to though is just like, regardless of what job you're doing, if you're living your life for some moment in the future, like whether that's getting home from work
Mm.
and getting to do,
Mm.
like there's sacrifices for everything. But to me, yeah, success is like just being able to constantly do that thing that is the thing I want to do. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
which obviously, if what you want to do is, like play video games and eat cheeseburgers all day, that's not going to pay money. So you got to like make
You know,
it could though.
we were having this conversation yesterday. Everybody, I feel like in our kind of education system, but also just in our culture in general, we're not exactly brought up to follow our natural passions. We're kind of always put into a box where they'd be like, okay, yeah, you have to go through the school, you have to go through college, and then you're going to find something that's lucrative and that'll hopefully make you a bunch of money. And, if you happen to be good at math, well, why don't you just go into engineering? But maybe you don't like engineering so much. And what we were talking about yesterday is that everybody has a passion and everybody could follow that passion. And for example, some people do have a passion of working with numbers and data, and they actually would love to sit behind a computer and just crunch numbers all day. And then they'd feel rewarded for it and they'd feel like they're doing something. And then you have other people who love playing video games, and maybe they've gotten so amazing at video games that hey, they'd be like, yeah, come tester, you video game tester guy, whatever. And you can eat cheeseburgers while you do it. Um, long story short, I'm just saying I feel like everybody should really follow their passion. I feel like you're a great example of that, and I barely know you, and it's like you said, I'm gonna do this. Why'd you drop out of high school? What was the reason, if you don't mind me asking?
It was a lot of things. I was like 16, 17, and I knew I wanted to play music. You know, it's like it was in my family. I grew up, but it's kind of similar, Armin, to like what you were saying. Like it was just around, you know, like at family events, people had
Mm-hmm.
guitars and were playing tunes, and it was like it was just like a huge part of my life from the time I was like a tiny baby. There was, you know, people ask you like, when did you know? I'm like, I don't know if I ever didn't know, you know, like it just happened
Oh.
so early.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't,
Mm-hmm.
it just always seemed like, oh yeah, I'm gonna play music. Um, but at the time, you know, like 16, 17, I just felt like the course being offered to me was going to take a long time. And it's what we were just talking about, like go to finish high school, go to college. I wanted to go to school for jazz or something, you know, and like everyone encourages you, like, go to college and then, you know, maybe get a teaching degree and you could teach at university. And it just always felt like I don't want to teach. Like that's actually not what I want to do. I want to play. And I was just like, I should just start playing. And right at 16, 17, through random happenstance, I got this really weird gig playing bass in this punk rock band that their bass player broke his foot, and it was like a big American, you know, tour. And I just was like, well, I can't stay in high school. And like, you know what I mean? Like if I'm going to start playing shows and stuff and touring, like I'm not going to be allowed to do this. And it was very difficult. Definitely, like my parents were super bummed out. But shortly thereafter, once I was like actively doing a career in music, you know, my mom was like, "Oh, you made the totally the right decision." I just couldn't have said that at the time because who's going to encourage their kid to drop out of high school? You know?
That's amazing that they even let you do that.
Yeah. It was when I turned, like, I think in Texas it's 17, 16, 17. And it was like on the, like, I planned it out, you know, on the
Wow.
day that I was legally allowed to. I was just
Mm-hmm.
like, all right, see ya. Um, and yeah, I mean, I went to like junior college after that and played in the jazz band and like tried to, you know, get my basics while I was like writing songs and doing that stuff. But a couple years of that too, and I was like, I don't really want to go to college. What's funny now is at 30, you know, 32 years old, the idea of going to school for music is like super exciting. Like
Mm.
I think now if it was offered to me, I would sign up in a heartbeat. Like if
Mm.
I just had time and I didn't have to worry about bills and stuff, like just all you got to do is study and transcribe solos. Like that sounds really fun,
Yeah,
you know?
it is a time that you don't get back.
You don't know what you have until you have it, and then you're like, oh shit. So let me
Yeah.
just say, you probably didn't miss out on too much. Okay. I think you did what. Again, full disclaimer, because look, so many people that I know work for these institutions. Number one, I used to, be involved in these institutions as well. So it's like I'm not gonna sit here and say that it was all bad. Okay, that would be preposterous. But
Yeah.
what I am gonna say is, there's a considerable lack of practical data,
Mm.
practical information in a lot of music schools. They're making efforts now more and more to improve that. But every music school should tell you how to promote yourself,
Mm.
how
Mm-hmm.
to connect on the stage, how to be choosing between being an entertainer or an artist, or what's the work in between and what the benefits and all that stuff. This is that tangible,
How to roll a proper joint.
how to roll, all that stuff is very important for musicians to have practical
How to hang.
knowledge. Yeah, I mean, but what's
Why do you
happened?
think that is? Why do you think that they don't, like, why is that not a part of the curriculum?
Well, I'll tell you, it's very simple. Um, every single curriculum in an institution of that nature is designed to either two things. They're encouraged to create a perfect employee of some sort into some industry,
Yeah.
other than the institution itself, or they're encouraged to become a perfect faculty member for an institution.
Yeah.
Let me go off of that real quick. I graduated from the Shepherd School of Music at Rice University here, and one thing that I noticed there after my 4 years was that, not even noticed, actually, their whole thing is to create the perfect orchestral musician. And they're the best at it. They have like the highest placement for orchestras in the country. And their training is based on that. So you don't learn anything else in that school besides classical music theory and how to play in an orchestra or how to do chamber music. And for me, it was interesting because in my first year, my freshman year, I was going to this place, Cafe 4212 on Alameda Street, which had a Monday night jam session. And somebody from Cincinnati, where I'm from, told me about it and said, you should go. And I remember going the first time, and I had no idea what I was getting into. And I was like, one, I stuck out like a sore thumb, but that was fine. I didn't care about that. And I went up to the MC and I said, hey, can I play? And he was like, can you play? Can you swing? I was like, I think so. I think. And I played a tune or two, and it went fine, but I kept going every Monday. And then I got so much more steeped in the jazz side of Houston. And then I went and studied abroad, and I got even more steeped in it. And I came back, and I was like, wow, I'm really realizing a lot of things. Another example is I went to Aspen Music Festival and played in all the orchestras there. And I was like, I don't know if this is what I want to do. My point is, when I came back from all that and really realized more what I wanted to do, it actually created a sort of, created a little something at the school where they're like, he's not going to represent us statistically necessarily because I'm not going to graduate and immediately go to an orchestra. Thus, the placement percentage goes down. Now, I don't want to ruin their percentage, that's for sure. But at the same time, I still need to follow my heart. And thankfully, my teachers, my bass teachers, were totally cool. They support me in anything I do. But I remember getting a lot of backlash for even wanting to go and study abroad in Europe. And they're like, you know that with your scholarship, you're taking money away from the school. He said that to me in the meeting in front of my teacher as well. And I said, are you serious, man? The merit scholarship that I have, you're worried about that taking money away from the school? And also, we've got millions and millions in endowments. So it's not like they're really missing that much. But that was a little off-putting, and that really kind of changed my perspective on all that.
Are you sold yet?
Oh my gosh.
But like, that's one instance, and I have to say my whole experience was truly positive. I learned so much, but these are just little things on the back end that I think are very important, and they did really affect my opinion of, one, the classical music world, and two, of what I wanted to do in the future.
Well, maybe the issue in general with all things is just balance, because I'm sure now,
yeah,
knowing you don't want to play classical music for a living, and do that, be in a symphony and do that route, like I grew up playing like classical piano, and like I think I hated it when I was a kid. I think at some point I was like, oh, I don't want to do this. I want to do something else. I want to play rock and roll, like whatever. Now, it's a huge part of my practice still. And I listen to it so much and I love it. I'm sure being removed from it now, like you hear a piece like that you really like and you're like, oh my God, this music's incredible. But it's just bad. Like if they gave you the options, and that's another thing. Getting back to the genre thing, like it just always bugs me out just in general that there's like a specific costume for every genre and like a specific set of rules and like, you just have to like play by the rules or you're like not that exists in the professional world. Like what I was saying about Americana music, I definitely have felt jilted because people are like, oh, you're weird, like you don't have the same influence as us, like I don't know. I would joke we would do this thing at the end of every set on this one tour where we would do like a big free improv, just like noise thing, and usually it would be in front of an audience that is like expecting to hear country music, and I think we give them a fair amount of that, but we would do just like a straight up just like 15 minutes of just free improv, and I would always say like this tune is dedicated to Eric Dolphy or Ornette Coleman, like, and these would be names that would just like disappear into the audience. Like no one in the audience had ever heard of Ornette Coleman, which I find unbelievable. But it's just like, and generally people, I had like comments we would joke about would be like, I loved your set, but there was that one part where you guys were tuning up. Um, where they, like they would just completely like have no reference point for it and like be very like judgy about what music is supposed to be. You know what I mean?
Wow.
That's crazy.
That's cool though. That's funny that you did that. I like that.
Yeah,
On
we
a
were
level of
definitely.
1 to 10, how much can you hear what's going on behind us right now?
I can't hear anything.
Oh,
Very good.
perfect. They are digging underneath our house
Oh my goodness.
and repiping the whole house. We've been almost a month without water at this point.
Oh my God. Is it because of this freeze?
Yeah.
Oof. That's we had 2 pipes burst, and I had some stuff on hand and was able to patch them up, but I turned the water off immediately, and I'm probably gonna start in a couple weeks. I'm just gonna redo the whole house with PEX and like
Oh, wow.
call it a day because we have copper piping and it's just meant to explode. Like,
Sell that copper. Keep the copper and sell it.
On the black market. Robert E. Lee Ellis Sr. Dude, tell us about the crazy, crazy things you've been thinking about. Nothing in particular, whatever comes to mind. Let's go deep, okay? We're like we're trotting around. We're like, oh yeah, music, this and that. We already know all that stuff.
okay. Crazy things I'm thinking about.
Oh,
Come on, there's gotta be one.
I don't know. My brain's been pretty basic.
Oh,
I'm kind of like in a.
let me guess. You're wearing a MAGA hat.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I actually found this in my floorboards. I don't know what it's from,
Hmm.
but it's from like 1980. Clearly,
Tuna. Does that say a tuna Christmas?
yeah.
That's
I was
sweet.
this house is from 1904, and so
Oh.
all these projects I like tore up a bunch of floorboards, and this was like buried in the insulation inside of one of the floorboards.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know what this is at all. But no, it's not a MAGA hat. It's definitely not a MAGA hat.
A tuna Christmas.
That was a joke.
We gotta look that up.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's a weird find.
You literally found an ad campaign from like some random point in history, man. That's kind of cool.
Being in a
Very
house
strange.
from 1904, do you ever experience anything weird in there?
You ever feel poltergeists?
I'm pretty like non-believer.
Ah.
My wife is into that stuff, and
Yeah.
she swears that our house is haunted.
Really?
I knew it was. I could feel it.
I haven't heard anything. I have questions.
There
I have
was
a
something
lot.
behind you at one point, and I was like,
I
wow,
was like, what?
that's weird.
I have a whole lot. Ghosts to me, the whole idea creates way too many questions.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to know, like, if there are ghosts, why do they always seem to be like, like, okay, so people die and then their spirits linger around for a while and then
Yeah.
they haunt areas. What about like people have been dying for so long, like
Yeah.
for a really long time? Why is it always like some Victorian lady in like a house
Ah.
from, you know what I mean? Like, why are the only ghosts
That's
we
part of it.
see?
You're asking the right questions, but also
That's
there's
part of the
other
population.
questions you don't see.
Like, there's so many dead people. Like,
Yeah.
where
There
are
are a
all
lot.
the, like, why are there not caveman ghosts? Like,
True.
There could be. I'm
Yeah.
not exactly sure. I also think of it in a sense like, if ghosts are a thing, I don't really know which way to believe. I'll be honest with you. I've had an experience that just wigged me out. You know what I'm going to tell you? Because it's kind of important.
Here we go.
I'm not going to give the full detail for liability's sake. But I was at my girlfriend's house and we were having a very spiritual night. And we had done some tarot card readings and we were just getting really in there, trying to be very aligned. And all the tarot card readings were very on point. And I can't even really say that I'm somebody who's like into all of that. She has the deck. She's into it a lot. I'm down with it. I love it. Let's do it. but the readings were just spot on to the point where it did give me chills at some points based on the questions that we asked. But then at a point, we were just lying in bed, and I just remembered a couple of things that make this important. The door was cracked, so I could see just the little line of light from outside, and I knew it was cracked. And that door is very hard to close. It's like an old house, and it's all like, you have to like slam it shut to get it really closed. And during the tarot card reading, we had actually invited ghosts into the home or into the room. And I made sure to declare it as positive. I don't want any negative stuff, just in case. I don't even know if that works, but I said it just in case.
You know what I'm saying? You got to cover your bases.
And okay, so we did the tarot card readings, crazy, blah 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 blah. Then we're lying down in bed. We're kind of trying to go to sleep. All of a sudden, I hear, and the door totally slams closed, all the way closed, and hard too, not even soft. And the AC was not on, so I don't believe it was a suction sort of atmospheric thing. Immediately when the door closed, the light kind of like behind us shut off. Now, the light is on an hour timer, so it will shut off after an hour. However, it was like boom, boom. It was like, and I was like, God damn, okay, weird. And so I was freaked out, and I'm still lying in bed. And I was like, did you hear that? And she's like, yeah, what was that? And I was like, the door just slammed shut. She was a little more tired than I was, so she didn't think as much of it. But then I was looking at the wall, and I was looking at this kind of Egyptian circle picture that she has. And I noticed, I was like, is the space, like if you just were to grab space in front of you, it kind of started to look like a heat field, like when you see heat and it's kind of waving like that. And then I kept looking at it more and more, and I was like, what am I looking at? Like a ball of energy? And then all of a sudden, the ball started to move over and over and over towards the curtains. And then I was like, holy fuck. And I... Sorry. And then I went to her, and I was like, yo, I'm seeing like something moving in the room. And then I got under the covers even more, and I looked up, and I saw like a smoke energy start to come over the bed. I was scared shitless, to say the least.
I did.
And then I didn't want to go back into that house for a long time. I have not witnessed anything since. But that really changed me. Yeah. And I don't know what it is. I think maybe, again, not going into super detail, my perception was widened, and maybe I was able to kind of see through a veil a little bit more. But
bro, I'm gonna tell you right now, if any door is shutting on me like that, and then I'm seeing any kind of smoke going, I'm burning the house down and I'm leaving. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, just declare it like that is gonna be quarantine.
We're done.
Yeah, I would put one of those circus tents over the whole house.
Yeah.
That's like Breaking Bad.
Yeah, and just leave it. Just walk away.
That's funny. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say nothing like that has ever happened to me, and I want it to. You know what I mean? Like, but I'm also I'm so skeptical. I don't know that it could happen to me.
Be careful what you wish for.
On a more serious note, would you describe yourself as like a spiritual person or a straight up materialist? Done.
I'm pretty materialist. Okay, I definitely believe that. I guess it would be closer to like a Buddhist philosophy version of like yes, I think that when we die, like the people we are, like our names, like that's over. I think that identity, like identity is something that I am maybe a little spiritual about. Like whoever you are specifically will die, and that is true, but it kind of doesn't matter because you aren't actually who you think you are specifically anyway. But I wouldn't say that I'm spiritual in like the like I guess all of my ideas about identity, about like personal individualism and things like that, they play into this like things sound woo-woo to me when you try and imagine an afterlife, or you try and imagine like, past lives, or and like all of that stuff seems crazy to me, because it's like trying to imagine you specifically, who you are, when you don't even exist. If that makes sense. You know what I mean?
That's
Like,
a wonderful way of putting that, actually. I like that.
You know what's even just crazier than all of that even is like just look at your hand and
oh my God.
just acknowledge for 1 second that you're a meat suit walking
Yeah.
around and having a conscious experience on some speck of dust somewhere. You don't even know you don't know where you're at.
Yeah.
You actually don't know where you are, who you are, or what you are at any given moment. And we are all acting like we do, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless we do on some even greater level that maybe we are. Like, for example, I don't know if you're familiar with something called the Akashic Records, which is basically the Book of Souls. And it's one soul, but it's also the Book of Souls in the sense that when people go inside and access the Akashic Records, they can see who their soul has been through all of eternity. It's a cool thought. I actually was really practicing it one time when I was overseas and just trying to meditate on that. And I was reading so much about it, and I was like, okay, I'm going to do this like every night and really try and access my Akashic record. And one night I did have a very interesting visualization, and they're supposed to be like, maybe a name or a word will pop into your head, name more name, and the name that I got was the word sangwa, and I was like, where in the world did I get that? Like, I saw it, Songhua, just popped into my head, and that was what stuck with me. And I'm not saying that's it or not. I'm just saying that is what I saw, and that's what stuck with me. And I looked it up, and I realized that it's a river in China. And I was like, wow, I've never looked that up. I don't ever remember coming across it, but interesting that just popped into my head.
Chinese.
I've been told that.
No, I'm just bullshitting. He doesn't.
I think that stuff, like, all of that stuff is super interesting, and like, if the whole thing that you're talking about with the Book of Souls, like, it sounds similar to me to this Hindu idea that like everything is like the world is a play, like that all of it is just like God or whatever the like ultimate divine thing is. It's all that thing pretending to be a bunch of other individual things for the enjoyment of like play. Like, it's all a big show, and it's all God deceiving himself that he is like not God at all times. Like, that's the game. You know what I mean? And this goes on in that philosophy for like millions and millions of years, and they alternate on these arbitrary like kalpas that like every 4 million years or something, this cycle repeats, and it's like birth and then life and then death, and it's like all of these things, but they all just kind of say the same thing, which is just like, it's just one big thing that likes to pretend it's not, and that's the whole game. Which is beautiful.
I like that, and I was gonna say, because sometimes we like to do good cop, bad cop. So what I'm gonna do is he's gonna go spiritual cop, and I'm gonna go science cop on you.
Awesome.
So check this out. There's 3 science cop things I would say right now. Number 1, we do have clinical data, clinical evidence to support that brain activity continues for many, 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 many hours after death. We don't even know what the limit is. We've measured it up to a day, I think, so. But past that, we haven't done the measurements. It could be a week. We don't know yet. That's creepy.
Do you think, though, that has to do with our sliding, ever-changing pronouncement of death? Like, did you know that like 100 years ago, we would pronounce people dead that were like totally not dead? And
right,
like,
totally.
We just like our understanding of what dead is.
Yes. And check this out. Moreover on that, but people who have been resuscitated after 6, 7, 8 hours, I promise you, I will link it in the description. I know what I'm about to say is ridiculous, but these people are able to recount conversations and people that were in the room while they were dead,
Oh.
which is
Their brain's still
the,
active.
the
They just
brain was still very much active. Their hearts were not working. Their lungs were not working. None of the other body functions were working. Okay. Second science cop thing. Oh, man, I even forgot it. I remembered the third one. I forgot the second one.
Go to the third. And then...
I'll go to the third one. The string theory has been scrapped for the most part in the past decade.
Yeah.
They're like, it was cool, but we couldn't reconcile a lot of issues. They're moving on to something like related to supersymmetry and what they sometimes refer to as a multidimensional tesseract. And they're thinking that the multiverse exists because there's just one huge multiversal membrane that interacts with our sub-pockets, sub-universes in a different way, giving them the physical characteristics that we have in this universe, different characteristics they might give to that universe. So we're looking into this theory right now. It's very weird, but it seems to suggest that the reason we all are like feeling like in ritualistically the idea that like we're all connected and that there's a super consciousness, blah blah blah, is that in a physical sense that literally is true. You know, we are literally all interacting with like a multi-universal energy, and the connections we feel are those energetic bonds, but we just don't have the science to explain what that even fucking is yet. Mm-hmm. So at some point, what I'm seeing might happen is like we figure out, we're like, oh, this is what the fuck we were talking about the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's gonna blow our minds. I'm not sure what that is.
I can't wait for that, because that's the thing.
Yeah.
When people ask that question, are you spiritual? It's kind of hard to answer, because I'm like, presented with anything that makes sense, I'm like, cool. I love the idea. I just am not one for like belief. Like belief is a big, difficult thing.
Sure, yeah.
Probably because of the way I grew up. And that like goes into all this shit, like ghosts and past lives and all. Like I'm just like astrology. I'm like, it takes a considerable leap on my part to say like, okay, there might be something here. But to me, I think some of the things that I believe, I feel like other people, when I explain them, like the idea that individual consciousness is like kind of a tragic accident. Like I find it that like us having this self-awareness, we're kind of the only thing that, like we have a ton of anxiety because of it, and we like don't exist in harmony with the rest of the universe. I think it was an accident. I don't think there was any design to it. And to me, it just is like kind of unfortunate that we have, like that we can't just exist in harmony with everything else. Mm-hmm. But I think most people's worldview is the opposite. It's like the fact that we have individual consciousness is like this great gift, and it must mean something. It must mean God like made humans like the most important thing. And mm-hmm. I just think that it was just an accident, and we just have to deal with it.
a tremendous accident, though.
Yeah.
If we go very literally, we started off with carbon and some other core elements. No, not even that. We started with dark matter and traditional matter colliding and creating the carbon molecules eventually. And then it all winds up here.
Yeah.
At Walmart.
That is the most at Walmart, dude. That is the most tremendous thing ever to think about.
That for me is slightly tragic when you walk into Walmart and you're like, wow.
It all led up to this.
I am alive in Walmart right now. This is whack. This is out there.
This 83-year-old woman is saying hi to me with like a shortness of breath, and she's getting $8.25 an hour, and I'm like, how are we doing this to ourselves, guys? We should be so elated that it came to this point and that we have a chance to experience all this. Like I don't even care. I'm not even trying to be spiritual about that. Just think about the statistics of that. Like
Yeah,
it's pure
Yeah.
insanity. But anyway,
unbelievable.
Have you ever had any sort of like out of body type experience, or even, even entheogen experience, which has made you
I
think otherwise?
I meditate a lot. I've been doing
That
TM for
sweet.
years, like, and I love it. And definitely, the first time I did TM, I was actually in India with this buddy of mine, Johnny, and we were there on a music sort of trip. We stayed for a month, and we were trying to
Whoa.
make a record in Delhi. And I
Wow.
was just having like a really hard time. Like the trip was just it was just really difficult, trying time for me. And he was like, "Man, you should really try TM." And he went and like paid for the David Lynch class that's like $1,000 or whatever to learn. I don't know if you know this. David Lynch has like that whole TM foundation,
oh
um,
wow,
where
I
he
don't
like,
know. I don't know what TM stands for.
transcendental
oh
meditation.
yeah.
Can you
So
explain to the viewers a little bit about the core tenets of transcendental?
it's really cool. I mean, I learned it from someone who wasn't supposed to teach it to me. Like you're supposed to go pay for the class and learn it probably a very specific way, but I learned it just from my buddy, and I've gotten a lot out of it. The way I would explain it in my own personal, um, understanding of it is that you just have like a million thoughts and external things just like sort of hitting you in the face at all times.
Mm.
And the idea of TM, at least in my understanding, is that you have this mantra, you like get yourself into this very comfortable place, and then you sit and close your eyes and you repeat this word, this mantra, which is essentially like a nonsense word in the sense that it doesn't have any ties or relation to anything in your life. Like you couldn't use the word like kitchen because then every time you said the word, you'd think of your kitchen and you'd think of all the baggage that comes with. So this mantra is just like this nonsense word that you just repeat over and over. And when you're doing it, the idea is that like the act of just saying the word over and over, rather than like thoughts still come into your head, they still like come at you, and then you just say the word, and when you say the word they sort of go like to the other side of your,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't know how to even explain
Mm-hmm.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
Just like the
I feel
act of
that.
saying that word over and over, it does this thing where you start to experience all of that anxiety and all of those thoughts as things that you have the choice to acknowledge or not.
Oh.
Like like it trains you to be like, well, i can I can like recognize it without engaging with it, like, and that was a skill that I
Mm.
didn't really understand, like anger or fear or anxiety, like it's gonna be there, but you don't have to necessarily engage with it. Like you
Mm-hmm.
don't have to like respond to it. You can just like see it there and just let it go somewhere else. You know what I mean? Like
For me, c- because I'm having trouble actually picturing it, would you mind telling me which word you say, or would that ruin it?
well, you can just Google like this. Well, it's funny because I'm sure if somebody listening to this is like really into it, they're gonna be like, "This redneck, he doesn't even understand TM at all." Like my friend told me his. He's like, "I'm not." They tell you never to tell anybody what
I
your mantra
figured.
is,
Yeah, I
and so,
figured.
but I'm gonna just tell you this because I thought it was really funny. He told me his, which was Shireen, and then I started using that as my mantra, and then I taught a couple friends, and I told them that word, and then at some point I was just like, oh, you know what? A quick Google search would probably clear this up in my mind. Like, how special is this? So I Googled like TM mantras, and it turns out there's not that many. And like Shareem is like one that they give to pretty much everyone of a certain age group.
What?
But you're not
Wow.
supposed to know that. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
in the teaching, they tell you like this is super secret, and you never tell anyone what your mantra is. I don't
Wow.
I might be blowing it and messing it up somehow, but even with all that said, I still get a lot out of it. Like,
Yeah.
even if I'm doing it wrong, it's still like in that 20 minutes, you just sort of like first of all, 20 minutes seems like a long time, but when you are doing this, it just flies by. It's just
Yeah.
gone, and like, and it also does this thing where like it tells me what shape my brain is in.
Whoa.
Like if you've had too much coffee, or like maybe you didn't sleep enough, or like do you ever get that weird feeling when you're like ill, where it sounds like there's like a low frequency cycling thing happening in the room, or like I don't know how.
Wow.
I'm sure everyone experiences this stuff differently, but like some days my brain feels cloudy, some
Mm.
days it feels really sharp, some days like it feels like there's a lot of things happening. You know what I mean? Like there's just so much going on, and then some days it's quiet. And as soon as you do TM, it's like you know exactly what kind of day it is or
Mm-hmm.
something,
Mm.
you know, like you know what shape your brain is in, because
Right.
sometimes you sit down and you start saying that word and like literally no thoughts come into your head. Like, and then
Mm-hmm.
other days you're just like, oh, like second grade, what was his name, that teacher? And then like, oh no, I have to
Yeah.
like, there's just like a million, you know, like
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's
Do you
really,
ever do you ever have either of you?
Mm.
Do thoughts ever just enter your head that are so not you that you're amazed that they could even just pop into your head like that?
I want to say, yeah. I wish I could remember some things.
I'm talking like,
Mm.
wow, this might gonna make me look bad. But
Mm.
something you'd be like, why would I ever in my whole life think that?
Mm.
Wow, if I'm alone here, that's gonna be weird.
I'm sure that happens to everybody.
Yeah, you're
I'll make a
saying.
point of
Yeah,
it.
okay.
Sometimes, and I actually cannot say that this has happened recently at all. And it doesn't worry me personally or anything like that. Like I don't
Mm.
feel like something's wrong. But I just when I'm thinking and I'm all these sentences are flying through my head, and I know some people think differently. Some people don't even think in words. They actually think in abstract ideas, which is really crazy. Um, a literal sentence will fly through my head and it'll be read aloud in my head, and then I'll be like, why did I just think that? Probably something very negative
Mm.
usually.
Mm.
And I'll be like, I don't identify with that at all. And what I wonder is, one, where that's coming from, and two, why was it able to simply jump into my head without any sort of impetus? Not
Yeah.
It's not like I was watching the news. It's like I'm driving on the highway or I'm like walking in the front door and I'll be like hit by it and I'll be like, wow, that was nuts.
Mm. Well, the Akashic records, I remember the second science police thing. The Akashic records are kind of what scientists are trying to study right now, which is called the science of genetic memory.
Oh,
Come on, help me out on this.
I feel like genetic memory is a fine way to describe it.
It's the science of genetic memory. It's like the same reason, for example, you breed generations of chickens, right? Inside a lab. They've never seen the outdoors. Okay?
Mm.
Even like 15 generations later, you show them a hawk.
Yeah.
That's it. They're going nuts. They're like, that's it. It's game over. We have to hide. They're freaking out, but they've
right.
never seen hawks for years. You know what I'm saying? That's genetic memory. So in my idea, and there's some efforts to try to see if there's any evidence to this, is that sometimes we get bursts of like traumas or just random experiences from our DNA, our ancestral DNA.
Mm.
And it floods in, and a lot of people think those are maybe spirits or your ancestors talking to you or whatever. I think it might literally be genetic data that has been imprinted in you and carried on. Why do people, for example, say like if you have a history of alcoholism, you know, you might become an alcoholic, or they might say, hey, your father, you've never met him before, but you act just like him. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you got a temper the same way, blah blah blah. That's what that is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, that stuff is frightening, you know,
Yeah.
to think that we have like, I like to think that we have a measure of control.
Mm.
But that
Cool.
stuff is, it's scary to think that like so much is predetermined.
Mhm.
And even down to like just like how you experience the world is predetermined, like your anxieties and your
Mm-hmm.
fears, you know, like that's I'm sure you can do, I mean, if that is true and evolution exists, you would think that like those genetic memories change over time as we find more comfortable ways to exist. You know, like over generations, like maybe you get better at those things, like, you know, like over generations and generations, and then like our great 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 grandchildren, like their genetic memory will be some of the positive things that we did
I
to like
like that.
to buck that system, you know.
Yeah.
Like
I like how you said that. That's a good idea, actually. Live your best life so that your children will have nice genetic memories. That's deep.
yeah,
That's deep, dude. You said that. That's deep, bro.
yeah.
Golly.
You don't want
That
to,
is
I
good.
mean, giving into that stuff is the, like, that's my main goal in life, I think, is just to like not give in to what I feel like is, you know, like what feels predisposed, which for me is anxiety. Is like
Hmm.
I'm just am like, oh, that is just here. There's nothing that I can do, and I feel like
Mm.
that is a worthwhile pursuit to like try and become its master. You know, like
And you feel
Yeah.
like was anxiety something that you would say that you suffered from?
oh, I mean, still, I just like have like irrational fears, just like, you know, like the phone rings and it's a number I don't know. Usually I jump to like
I
what
see.
is the, you know, what is the worst thing it could be, and it'll be
Okay.
like completely ridiculous. Like, let's say I went to the doctor for a physical 3 months ago and everything came back normal, and then I get a call from a number that's in like the same town. My
Hmm.
mind immediately jumps to like, oh, they
I
must
feel
have like
that.
mixed up the records and they're calling to tell me that I actually am dying completely.
Right.
I'm nervous.
Dang.
I'm nervous when my laptop doesn't pick up the internet when everything's working perfectly.
Oh,
And I'm
dude,
like, wow, they got to me now. Okay. All right.
I was like, we should have stopped months ago. What are we doing?
It happened this
I had a
morning.
I updated yesterday, and it took like a little longer than I thought it should to like finish the scrolling bar, and I was having a full on meltdown because I've been doing all of these string and I've been doing these big band arrangements for this client,
Oh
and
man.
they're like, you know, pages and pages, and they're all saved on my computer, and I
No.
just had this meltdown moment of like, why am I not saving these on a cloud? My
Right.
computer is the weak point in this whole equation.
Right.
Oh my god.
Oh my God. Did you start meditating?
Dude, I had like, I just shut the thing and walked away for a while and came back and finished.
Shroom, shroom, shroom,
Yeah.
shroom, 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 shroom. Yeah, shroom.
That's awesome. I'm gonna have to try that. I need to try. I've tried different mantras, but literally like something longer. For example, like I am love. But I want to try. I want to try that because I've never truly done that. And then the other form that I really practiced for a while was just clearing my head and trying to keep it as clear as possible. Which I realized after a lot of practice, and there was a point where I was practicing a ton. I really got better at it. And now today, when I sit down and I have not been practicing, or the times that I have sat down recently, I'm like, damn, dude, my mind is not in shape.
Mhm.
Is a good way I could put it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I feel
Do you
like,
guys have, do you have this thing when you play sometimes where like you are just like improvising even like a solo or something, and like all of these other thoughts are popping into your head and you're
Mhm.
like, oh shit, I wonder if I'm gonna miss this next chorus, or you know
Yep.
what I mean? Like I just am like, oh shit, my mind has been wandering. I've been on
hmm,
autopilot through this whole verse. Like
Right. Exactly.
sometimes something catches your eye
yeah.
in the audience, and
Uh,
you miss a chord, but you'll get back on. You'll get
you
back
know what I'm
on.
saying? But well, in a way, because music is kind of meditative, and that's why if you
Yeah.
actually let it do its thing, and like we just talked with Kurt about it, if you actually just let the music take you, then you are in a meditative state. And then when you snap out of that, that's your ego coming in and
Yep.
telling you, why did you
Hmm.
forget that you might have left the stove on?
Yeah.
Why did
Oh,
you forget that you might have done that maybe?
hey,
You know what I'm
here's,
saying?
you know what's really, I this is something that I find to be so interesting and lucky for us, and it goes back to the job thing we were saying. We have one of the few jobs in the world that is actually a prerequisite that you are present of mind when you're
Mm.
at the
Mhm.
Oh,
When you go on stage and we play music, not
Very
only
good
is
point.
like you're allowed to be, but you have to be. Otherwise, the audience doesn't like it and the music isn't good. Like, so we're paid and encouraged to go meditate and just be present in the moment, like once a night. Like, I just find that like so incredible. You know,
That's
yeah.
a great point.
And
That's a great point. Now,
it's therapeutic, no doubt.
now imagine you're putting on a show like, Justin Timberlake, and you know that you got to do the 1-2 step over this way and a 3-2-9,
Oh.
and you got to hug this little girl right here and spin her around, and then she's got to flash her, and then whatever. You're thinking about all these things, like you totally are killing it at that point. Like you're ruining it. The purpose of the music, it has now turned into a purely sadistic sex thing. No, but you know what I mean.
Well,
Not to be facetious, but a little bit,
the flip side of that though is that like maybe some people's brains, like if you zoom out, if I listen to like Art Tatum or something, like
Mhm.
it's crazy. It's so far beyond what my brain can do on an improvisational level that like maybe some of these big performers, like it is just a muscle for them that they're
Yeah.
flexing of like improvising this hugely
True. That's.
intricate thing.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like this trapeze thing and singing and like
Mhm.
maybe they are making like crazy small changes every show that are like
Right.
mind blowing.
Yeah.
That's a good
I
point.
don't know. I don't know.
I mean, that's a good point. If we can stand up there and play like ridiculous solos, that people are like, "How are you thinking so much?" And it's
Yeah.
like, I actually am not thinking.
I'm
Did
not.
you know that?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, and I think you can hear that in like my favorite players, like Errol Garner, favorite piano player, hands down. Like if I could play like anybody, it would be him. And
Stanky.
he just sounds like pure fun. Like when he improvises, it's just like so fucking aggressive and confident and fun. And you never hear him thinking. It just always sounds like he just like rules.
His live shows are so good, dude. How's he so good? He's just like smiling, doing the whole thing the whole time, bro, and he's absolutely killing it. And it swings like crazy.
Oh
Like
God.
every single phrase he does, it's like you're like, oh. I love that.
And his left hand is like the way he comps is so
Yeah.
weird and different. Like he'll like comp triplets over the whole solo. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
it's such a weird thing and it swings so hard. When you listen to the left hand, you're like, why is it going bump, 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 bump? It's like
I'm gonna listen to some more Errol Garner here soon.
Yeah.
He's a monster. I got the Concert by the Sea transcriptions and was like going through a couple of those. It's humiliating. Like just the size of
Yeah.
like
He said
some of
humiliating.
the reach on the stuff. I'm like, well, I'll never be able to do that.
Wow.
You got your own thing going on, Robert. And you know what's funny? Nobody can call you a hillbilly because
Yeah.
you don't even believe in anything.
It's true. Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
But then nobody can say you're whatever. I mean, the transcendental thing. But I was gonna ask you about what is with the transcendental thing that has just it reached everybody everywhere. I'm pretty sure it's the biggest meditation practice that's ever existed. All of Hollywood is in it. All of the business magnets are in it. But it's like, I don't know, because I feel like if people were really doing that intensely, Hollywood wouldn't exist anymore. You know what I mean?
Well, I think it's people that have just a ton of shit going on.
Right.
It's like this. It's like Adderall or something. Like
Yeah.
I could see that it's addictive for those kind of people because they get that 20-minute break and they're able to deal with their intense like lifestyles. I would imagine a bunch of like really heavy business people do it too that have to go like fire 100 people and like move millions of dollars around or whatever. Like
They're like this. They're like this. They're like 3,000.
yeah,
Fire them, I guess.
fire 'em all.
And then they're like.
Yes.
I mean, that's just a funny image to me. But.
I don't know how you can do like those are the jobs that I'm like I don't know how anybody like I have stress.
Yeah.
I play music.
Yeah. Straight
Like
up.
we were reading about some of the biggest iron ore mining companies in Africa that are based in like Sweden and Denmark, and I'm looking at these guys who are like, and then they're like, the reason we were reading is because they got into a lawsuit with George Soros and they ended up crashing the economy part in Guinea. And I was looking at these guys and I was like, wow, to own a mining company that mines iron ore in Guinea, I just can't fathom that, for example. That's just such a crazy thing. And
like,
actually,
that's what you wanted to do? You're like, let's go to Guinea. Let's tell all these people they got to work in the worst conditions. Then we're going to grab the iron and run. What do you think? They're like, yeah, that sounds great.
Follow your passion.
Follow your passion.
follow your passion. Right.
People's passion is money. You know what I mean? Like that is another thing wholly different about what we have chosen to do with our lives that is hard to explain, especially to like your parents and like, when you're starting out in this career, like people are like, well, what about money? You're like, I'm actually not thinking about that. They're like, well, that's your first mistake. That's what you're supposed to think
Right.
about.
Yeah. That's why they always say, why didn't you go into the orchestral field? You're gonna make so much money. I'm like, I know.
Yeah.
But I can't sit through it too.
I just don't see the point, I don't look. It's like it's the same thing we're doing. We know money's bad, but you need it. Okay, fine. Okay, fine. I get it. Okay, what else? We know that two-party system is bad, but we need it. Okay, we need that too. All right. What else?
We
What
know
else?
that
What else?
iPhone is made by slaves.
We know that iPhones are made
But
by
we do
slaves,
it.
but we need them. What kind of? And it's like, can we have the choice to actually fix these things? Oh yeah, we can. It would be as easy as simply to say, you know what, guys, you're gonna have to make this another way,
Yeah.
and then we'll buy it.
You need a majority.
Guess what? They would shit bricks and be like, okay, 1 second, give us 2 months, we'll give you something.
Yeah. We would need the total population to do that. Not just a small percentage.
Well, yeah, but it's so the solutions are like actually pretty simple, but we love to say it's not.
They're feasible. They're definitely feasible.
Well, anything you want, do it now. Like I have that written down on my desk.
I like
do
good.
it now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
because it's not like making a plan. It sucks. Just like do it in the moment.
Yeah.
Think
Just
about
take
it.
a step.
I like that.
Take a step in that direction. Get off the couch, as one of my favorite YouTubers has said.
What do you want to say to the people closing off? Anything you got to promote, Robert? Let us know.
I'm not doing much. Just everybody stay sane, and I like hope that I can come back out in the world and see people soon. Yeah.
You said you were recording something in the studio?
Yeah, we just finished producing a record for this guy Zach Williams, and just produced this thing for this guy John Rule. We did like 5 records this year, and they're all coming out pretty soon, and got a couple more we're working on. And yeah, I'm just staying busy. It's fun stuff. Tonight I'm doing my first. A friend of mine is orchestral player, and she also does arrangements, like string arrangements and horn arrangements for people. And she's doing this monthly composers symposium thing where we're all just going to get on Zoom and like show each other what we're working on. And so when we get off, I'm going to go like make sure I have like dynamics written in the most recent thing I'm working on, so I don't embarrass myself. But yeah, I'm just like trying to stay busy and musical, and yeah.
Are you at the liberty of sharing that big orchestral project that you thought you had like totally deleted or something?
Oh, that's this guy Jeff Klein. So he was in a rock band called My Jerusalem, and we're just making 3 songs right now as a proof of concept, but we're trying to go full like Sinatra size band.
Oh wow!
So it's so fun. It's
That's
like
awesome.
I've been getting all of these Quincy Jones arrangements and just like dissecting them and putting them into finale and like putting them in different keys and just seeing what like the masters do with stacks and stuff. It's a fun project.
Dang.
Wow.
I need to get on that. Like, where can you send me some of that?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, dude, I have tons of I'm like gonna be, without ever doing like college and becoming a teacher, I'm gonna end up having like I just love sheet music. So on eBay and stuff, I'm always like, oh cool, a full score to like this crazy like I'm just buying all of it. So
Wow.
Cool.
you can't get it anywhere.
Yeah.
I just want to have like a huge. That's what I'm building my bookshelf for. Is for
Dude.
that library of music.
If you had like the full scores for like, you know, Off the Wall or something, you know, or like Thriller, you'd be like, what?
It's crazy.
Yeah,
Oh my god.
I need that.
I mean, even just like seeing like what Oliver Nelson wrote for like the quartet. You know what I mean? Like that stuff is so cool to just see how he thought about organizing three.
Oliver Nelson, like Stolen Moments. Oliver.
Oh
Nelson?
yeah, like that.
Yeah.
Like I would love to just look at the arrangement for that, like how he decided to stack it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah.
cool.
God dang, boy. Hey, Robert Ellis, everybody. We're gonna link all his Instagrams, Facebooks, projects, other albums he's done, etc., etc. We're gonna do another episode in the future. Or we want to do an episode here in studio with you at some point here. Okay, it's gonna happen. Don't tell me it's not gonna happen. I refuse to hear
Very
that.
cool.
And that's it. It was a pleasure, my man.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Robert. Great to meet you, man.
Yeah, likewise.
Hope to see you in the near future.
Okay, and I'll let you know when this thing is done, and we're gonna chat real soon. Okay.
All right, I'll talk to you all soon.
Okay.
Thanks.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.